On the banks of the Passaic River in New Jersey are the Botany Mills. Here, raw wool is transformed into strong, resilient woolen yarns and fabrics. For over 50 years, Botany products have answered the demand for quality and style within the reach of the average American pocketbook. Here, in one corner of its warehouse, we see baled wool from our own markets, ready to be graded. This man, from long experience, has learned to separate the different qualities of wool found in a typical fleece. Washing the fleece is an essential step in the manufacture of fine woolen and worsted yarn. Only soft water and the mildest cleansers are used in 6 separate washings to prevent damage to the qualities of the fibers. After drying, the wool emerges fluffy and white, ready for carding. Carding is a simple process, but very important. By working a tuft of wool back and forth across fine wires, the wool becomes untangled, smooth, and straight. Today, the principle of carding is exactly the same as it was in grandmother's day. The wool is put through automatic feeders, which allow just the proper amount of washed wool to reach the card. Although you can't see them, the rollers are covered with fine, sharpened wires, which gently force the wool fibers to straighten out in one direction. By the time the last roller is reached, the fibers are parallel with each other, and the wool emerges from the carding machine as a continuous band called the web. The web is automatically wound on spindles in convenient form for combing. The action of this machine is much like a woman combing her hair. Here the web is fed through a series of fine pins, which separate the shorter fibers from the long. The long fibers, or worsted, known in the industry as top, is wound in convenient form for dyeing. The best colored fabrics are usually those woven from yarns which are dyed before weaving. Top dyeing is a critical job, which can only be done with the help of special equipment. It is not enough to merely dip the top into dye stuff and expect uniform results. The tubes are perforated, and the dye is forced through from the inside and must be circulated vigorously so that every fiber will be drenched in color. The worsted which has been dyed must now be mixed in correct proportion with other colors to produce a yarn of the desired shade. Here is the first mixing step, done on the mixing gill. The colors used in this instance were merely selected for photographic purposes. Here is the final step in the long line of mixing and drawing operations. The broad bands of sliver have passed through a continual process of drawing and mixing of 2 or more colors, which has produced these thin strands, which are called roving. The machine is drawing them out even thinner. Most of us have seen an old-fashioned spinning wheel, but perhaps we don't know how it works. Actually, the spinning wheel was only an extra convenience over the primitive hand method of spinning, for the fingers still played a prominent part in the operation. What a contrast between the old spinning wheel and its modern descendant, the mule spinner. The carriage runs back and forth on wheels, drawing the right amount of roving strands from the bobbins mounted on the frame. As the carriage moves back, the strands are both lengthened and twisted by the revolving spindles on the carriage. Then, as the carriage runs in, the thread is rapidly wound on the spindles. The combination of drawing and spinning results in a strong thread practically twice the length of the original roving strand. Up to now, we have watched the processing of only the longer fibers of wool called worsted. Let's see how the shorter fibers, which go into the manufacture of woolen yarns and fabrics, are handled. This machine produces a narrow web of short fibers which are roughly parallel with each other. To gain strength, the narrow web is crisscrossed into a broader web, which is carded a second time. In this final carding, some of the fibers are straightened around, while others are not. This machine, called the tape condenser, cuts right through the crisscross web to produce strands of roving. The roving is wound on large spools, which in turn are placed on top of the spinning frames. Here again, the yarn is being spun and lengthened as in the worsted system. But instead of alternately spinning and then winding, as on the worsted mule spinner, this machine, called the ring spinner, spins and winds continuously. Although our yarns are now ready for weaving, they must be wound on special spools for the looms. First, we must prepare the warp, which is made up of threads running lengthwise in the finished cloth. Here in the warping department, the yarn is run from large spools to the warping machine, which winds the correct number of threads side by side on the big spool or beam in the foreground. The length of each thread may run up to 10,000 yards. In the meantime, the threads which run across the fabric, called the filling or weft, are also being prepared for the loom. These machines are called automatic filling winders. Their job is to wind the thread on small spools, which are later placed in the shuttle of the loom. When one spool is full, it is automatically removed, and another takes its place for winding. Although the loom is one of man's most valuable machines, for centuries it saw no change or improvement. It is easy to see why our ancestors found weaving a long and tedious task. But then at last the machine age found ways to make the loom run itself. The ancient principle of the loom, however, could not be improved. The shuttle and reed are still with us, performing their same jobs as of old. The warp threads, which you see here, are arranged to form a striped pattern. The shuttle is flying rapidly back and forth across the warp to produce a piece of cloth. The action of the shuttle is almost too fast for the eye to see. Even slowed down to less than half its normal speed by the slow-motion camera, it is still a blur to the eye. We have seen the great number of steps necessary in the preparation of woolen yarns before weaving. The operations after weaving are equally important. Every square inch of cloth is inspected. Any imperfections or breaks are invisibly mended by skillful fingers. After mending, the cloth is sent to the finishing department. First, the fabric is run through this continuous washer, where certain mild detergents render it entirely free of dirt. All goods which have not been previously top-dyed and are to be a solid color are taken to the dye house to be piece-dyed. After revolving the proper length of time in this bath of dye liquor, it is removed and dried. Now for the final finishing stage. Any straggling threads or fibers which may exist on the face of the fabric are cut off by a series of revolving blades, which leave the cloth smooth and free of imperfections. After finishing, the cloth undergoes another rigid examination under daylight. If it passes these inspectors, the cloth is at last a product worthy of the Botany label. All that remains is to wind the fabric on bolts and prepare them for shipment. Botany fabrics are now ready to begin their long journeys to every part of the country, wherever quality worsteds are sold and wherever style and serviceability are demanded. During the past 50 years, millions of yards of fine worsted fabrics have streamed from these shipping platforms to the nation's leading style centers. You've seen the men and machines, the careful handling and inspecting which go into the manufacture of Botany woolens, but there is more than this. Behind the men and machines are years of research and experiment. Botany maintains a large staff of technicians who are trained to test and control every step of manufacture, first to attain a desired quality and then to hold that quality through the years. This girl is removing tiny impurities which still remain in the top and will weigh them in a precision balance. The information gained here will be used to achieve higher quality combing. One of the most essential steps is the exact determination of staple lengths of wool. This can best be measured from the original top, which you have seen manufactured. The staple tester consists of a series of combs or needle fields set at definite lengths. The staple lengths are then separated by drawing the fibers out and placing them in sequence in their respective grades. When this is completed, the tufts are weighed and the percentage distribution compared with previous lots, so that uniformity may be maintained. At the beginning of every new lot of yarn, the twist has to be tested. Just the right amount of twist is important for maximum strength. The yarn is untwisted by separating the individual strands until the fibers are parallel and all twist is removed. The amount of twist is accurately measured and recorded. The yarn is tested for stress, strain, and other properties which show the ability of the yarn to come back to its original length after a definite load has been applied. All lots of yarn are tested for breaking strength before weaving. This machine is designed to maintain an equal amount of pull on the yarn at all times. See how far the thread will stretch before breaking. The yarn is now tested in multi-strand or skein form. If the threads have not sufficient elasticity, they will break while weaving and cause defects in the cloth. So it is important to know in advance what may be expected of a certain yarn. The results of these tests are compared with standards which have been gained from long experience. Fabrics have to be tested too for construction, weave, and texture. A thread is removed from the fabric, carefully measured, and weighed on a precision balance. Here, the breaking strength of the fabric is being determined. At the same time, a graph is made to show the amount of elongation or stretch before the breaking point is reached. How will the wear wear? The abrasion machine provides the normal wear over any desired length of time. In a day, one can find out the result of a whole lifetime of use. Today, blending of various types of wools can be determined scientifically instead of by the old rule of thumb methods. When viewed through the microscope, the enlarged image of the fibers shows how blendings may be improved. Before cloth can be dyed, it is necessary to determine the amount of fats and oils which may be present. These colorful and mysterious tubes and chemicals extract the grease from a piece of test wool and tell the research men the amount of fat it contains. The information gained will help to obtain a smooth, even dyeing job. But then, after the colors have been put into the cloth, we must make sure that the effects of normal use will not remove them. These dyed samples are wrapped in a clean white cloth, dipped in solutions simulating acid and alkali perspiration, and allowed to dry. If the dye runs, that lot of cloth will be rejected. We must also measure the degree of resistance fabrics have to various elements which they meet in daily use. This machine, the laundrometer, exaggerates many times over the actual effects of washing. The vigorous agitation to which these samples will be subjected gives our research men a complete story on their quality. Here is the fadeometer, where fabric samples are tested for their ability to resist fading in strong sunlight. With the comparison microscope, the shade and strength of new lots of dye are checked with established samples to assure uniformity. The Botany slogan, "From raw wool to consumer," was made famous by the Botany wrinkle-proof tie. The trademark is well illustrated here by the crumpling of the tie, which springs back to its original freshness when the pressure is released. The many harmonizing patterns of Botany mufflers provide a companion piece for the ties. The name Botany on sports shirts and slacks means long life and neat appearance. Botany's socks are designed to complete the ensemble. Botany's famous menswear is tailored by well-known manufacturers where style and quality must be maintained. Botany's men's robes are practical garments which will stand up under hard use. One of the more recent additions to the products division is women's robes, designed along the same classic lines of the famous Botany men's robes. Botany cosmetics are made with a lanolin base. Lanolin, a byproduct of the washed wool, is the base of the better cosmetics, and Botany's cream, lotions, lipstick, and soaps are rich in this natural oil. Botany no-dye lot yarns are an important part of the product's line. When you are making your own sweaters or dresses, you may buy yarn in small quantities, confident that the colors will match every time. Here are just some of the many colors available. The care of woolens is very important, and after years of research, Botany has developed Dunk, perfect for laundering all washable woolens. Botany products are made with every care that science and a desire for the best can provide. Botany all the way, American all the way, fabricated and sold in the USA, from source to consumer, Botany clothes the nation.